Hello. This is it. Tomorrow is the time. Tomorrow is the time when we're going to hear about the Fed. Why do you care? Why do you care about tomorrow if you're in the stock market? Well, obviously, you want to know what the Fed is going to do. You want to know what the Fed is going to do. Everyone is waiting for the Fed is going to do. I am going to show you. I'm going to show you several points that I think you need to be aware of. Several points that should help you make money in the stock market. These points are very important. They're based on my experience on a very selected few items that I noticed in the stock market recently. Why should you listen to me? Well, I have been at it for almost 2 years now. I have been looking and following, and it's going to be 3 years, quite frankly. I have been following the market. I've been looking at every single time. I've trying to predict it, trying to understand it. Then I started my Patreon channel and I started to trade it. And in fact, I think we should do quite fine because I created what is now called the $500,000 portfolio. Why 500? Well, because not 2 million. So I'm going to create a $500,000 portfolio. And I'm showing you as it grows. And literally, we should achieve 500,000 in about, I believe, a year and a half because we're going to double every quarter. So far, I've done it twice. Okay. How is that possible? Well, it is not magic, right? It's like everything else, it takes work. You need to work to make money in the stock market. You need to work to make money everywhere. So, I'm going to show you several items that you need to be aware of. You need to understand these points for you to be successful. What am I talking about? Well, the first one that you need to realize is that tomorrow at around 2 o'clock, the Fed is going to announce whether or not it is lowering the rates by 25 basis points. Is expecting, everyone is expecting it to decrease. So that's a good thing, right? And why are they doing it? They are doing it because inflation is under control, one, and two, unemployment is a bit higher than it used to be, and they have said that they want to control unemployment more than control the inflation. So they're going to lower rates. Having said that, you need to understand that there's a tug of war going on in the market right now. What do I mean by that? Well, basically, the Fed is essentially looking at some point maybe not lower rates as much as they used to. Why? Well, because inflation is not so much under control anymore, and we also have tariffs that are going to be coming up. Tariffs could create inflationary in nature unless Trump is able to do a trade. Trump is able to coerce or to make deals with these countries so that we don't have to have a tariff war. Is he going to be successful? We don't know. What you're experiencing right now in the stock market, what's really going on, is we're looking for a story. When we're trying to understand what the Trump trade is about, we're trying to understand whether or not we are going to have inflation all over again. We're trying to understand what it means in terms of earnings season. Are we going to have a good earning? Basically, we are, and this is what's going on in the market, which is quite interesting. We're trying to figure out what is really going on. But we'll never know what is really going on. What I mean by that is, do we truly have inflation or not? Are companies making money? And we don't really know because we're basing ourselves on numbers that are coming out, right? Because if it was that simple, If it was that simple in the stock market, everybody would be making money in the stock market. I will show you a couple of charts later on to show you how this thing really works. And the secret is not so much trying to say, well, is this company going to make money or not? Because quite frankly, there are companies that are making money and nobody cares. I got GCT that is doing great, right? But because it's a small cap, right now everyone is focusing on the large cap. It was one is focusing on what the Fed going to do. And as I've shown in previous video, names like QQQ, which is tied to the Nasdaq, which is an ETF, is highly correlated to what's going on with the rates. At the same time, you have the market basically telling to the Fed, lower those rates, and you better lower those rates, because if you don't, I mean, don't forget, when we see the market is going up, the Dow has been hit quite a bit for the past couple of seasons, couple of days. In fact, it has the longest losing streak in a while. So it's not like everything is onky dory. Okay, so what's going on? But that's the point. What's really going on is they are shaping the story that they're telling you. You have to realize that the stock market is not about numbers. I know. What do you mean it's not about numbers? It's not. The stock market is about how you're telling the story, understand the story that's happening right now. Like right now, for tomorrow, is we better have a rate cut. After that, we'll see. Because if you don't have a rate cut, then we have a market crash. Okay. Why? Because this thing is built into it. That's one story. Another story is a Tesla story. Another story is a Trump story. Another one is the tariff story. How are they all going to fall into each other? But at the end of the day, okay, if you want to know numbers in terms of earnings, well, don't worry about it, because the earnings per share of the S&P 500, which they're going to release, the fourth quarter is going to come out, is expected to go up, right? Um, Nvidia is going to make money. Tesla is going to make money. Apple is going to make money. They're all going to make money. They're not going anywhere. So don't think that it's a numbers game. No, it's a story. You need to get the story straight. Because if you don't understand the story, if you are there, you know, thinking that, oh wow, well, Tesla is not doing so well because no one's going to buy those cars. They're not going to get anything. The robots are not working. Remember the situation with the robot taxi? Well, if you're one of those people, you're getting killed right now because you thought the stock was not gonna go anywhere, but look what it is now. Same company, same guy, just now he's closer to Trump. And you're telling me that this has nothing to do with the story? It has everything to do with the story. But it has to be, because if it was all about the numbers, somebody would have already figured out how to calculate the true value and apply it and then buy and then make money. But that is not that simple. It's all about all these forces at play, trying to grasp as to, should I buy or should I sell? And what you need to do is you need to take advantage of the situation. How do you take advantage? Well, you need to understand what's going on. And frankly, it is a name by name story. You need to understand every name, and you need to understand how every name trades. You need to understand how every name is priced, and you need to understand how every name is credit, financials, where do they stand. You need to understand all these things at the same time, and then you need to understand the broader concept as to what is happening. That's the difficult part. That is a difficult part. This is how you make money in the stock market. You need to know what's going on. So let me show you. Let me show you a trade that I put on today, and you could see how much money you can actually make. So let's take a look at our Tesla trade today. Just very simple trade that I did, right? As you could see right now, As you could see, we have our trade, right? Um, this is a Tesla 600 call. This is a Tesla 600. Okay. And what do I have? Well, if we look at it, what did I do today? It was today. Okay. Today, as you can see, because I want to show you what I'm doing so that it's not just talking, right? I'm actually applying these things. I bought some calls 9 hours ago. So um, it was around 10 o'clock or something like that, right? At $11. And then it went down and I bought again at 9. And then 4 hours ago, it went back at 11 and I sold, right? So 1100, 1235, $1,000, almost $1,200 in one day. Why? Well, because if you look at it at 10 o'clock, at 10 o'clock, it was around, this is when I bought it, around 10, 11 o'clock. And then it didn't go anywhere all day, right? And then it started collapsing. I said, you know what? Let's buy some more. And then I averaged out around 10. And then eventually I sold around 11 and then it collapsed again. So what is going on? Obviously, now keep in mind, right? This option for the day, right, went up. We started at 8. He ended up at 10, right? So he went up 48%, right? Sorry, when it started at 8, 40%, and ended up, no, it ended up at 10, ended up at 11.43 because that's when it closes. So that's why they're showing you about the 43, 48%. Okay. And the stock was up 2%. So literally this option is 20 times, it reacts 20 times the value of the stock. But 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 what happened during the day on Tesla? What caused it to do what it did? With any news? Now you'll notice that when you look at the market right now, it's all red. Okay. Okay. It's all red. Except, I mean, the only name that's really moving around is Tesla at 3.64%. So what happened? Well, and actually, good thing that we sold because after market we're down 8 points and 1.7%. Okay, so what happened? Well, as you could see, yesterday, the look what's going on here. We literally have 1.7% up, $515. Okay, Mitsuo 550 and others as well. Now, so what happened today? Well, we started with a LinkedIn co-founder, a Tesla stock surged 6%, hits all-time high at 2 a.m. By the time 8, 9, 26 a.m., Mitsui sees 11% upside for Tesla. Everything is tied to the autonomous driving, and they're basically saying the story there, they're going to be releasing, they're going to be freed from the regulations, right? Tesla will be the biggest winner in 2025. Tesla robotaxi are coming. Tesla stock touches another record high at 12 o'clock. Warren wants Trump to make sure Elon Musk has some rules in his Dodge gig. Basically, he's going to say that's it. Is Tesla stock a buy or a sell? Is Rivian buy or sell? Magnificent Seven stock. You see, news all day about Tesla, all day, and that's a good thing. But basically, we are telling a story here. That's what we're doing. We're not reacting to the news. We are telling a story, and you need to whether to stick to the story or not. 20 times. So you don't have to wait for the stock to go up 20% in 1 year. You could make $1,000 a day on some things like that. But how do you make $1,000 a day? Well, my friends, I had to tell you, you need to know what you're buying. But not only that, because Tesla hasn't really changed, QQQ hasn't really changed. These companies are making great money. I mean, we're talking solid EBITDA growth type of companies. So what's driving them? What's driving them is a story. What is it that we think is going to happen? What is it that we think we're talking about it? And the story is a very powerful item. Never forget. What is the story of Frankenstein? It is not about a monster. What is the story about Moby Dick? It is not about a whale. What about The Walking Dead? It is not about zombies. If that's what you think, then you will never make money in the stock market. So how do I how do I know? How do I know what the story is? Well, that's a difficult part because you cannot calculate that kind of stuff. There's a story that needs to be done. The story needs to be told, right? Because whatever you read, whatever you see is not real. Okay, the number inflation. Have you heard about inflation? According to the Fed, it's going down to 3%. 3% or 2 point. What do you mean 3%? Everything is like 30% more from 2020. So which planets are they in? They are in the planet of telling you bedtime stories. But it's great if you know how to play the game. Right now, the only game in town is Tesla. Why? Well, because of the Trump trade. A month ago, when we thought he was going to lose, no one cared about Elon Musk. Now that he's winning and he won and he's going to be president, everybody loves Tesla. Why? Because they think that it's going to be, maybe, I'm assuming, hopefully, they get along and he helps him get his, basically, the story for Tesla is having to do with the regulation for him to get approval for him to have the FSD, full self-driving, because there's a lot of, he was getting entangled in getting the approval to sell. It was a mess with Biden, but now do it. That is worth $1 trillion right there. If you're able to get cars, don't underestimate. If you're able to get cars on the road that drive themselves and drive you around as a robo taxi, that's $1 trillion business. And Tesla is the most equipped. Not only is it a driving, it is AI. It's very important. Okay. Now let me show you another stock that is great, but that's not going anywhere because Trump is not paying attention. Okay. Let me show you something called VMC. Okay. Let's take a look at VMC. And it is significant. And I'll show you why. Look, VMC. Of course, I'm playing with options to make it more exciting and gains and losses, but gains also more valuable. But look at this. This is VMC, which is basically Vulcan material. It's basically a play. The company is a play. It's the largest. It's a top guy in the U.S., but it's a play on infrastructure. Are we going to spend money to fix things in this country? Infrastructure. Okay. Since November 25th, there was some. So we are here November 18 after the elections, right? They were hoping, they were thinking, hey, you know what? Maybe Trump is going to do something about the infrastructure and spending and fixing and whatever because Biden wanted to do it. So we went from about, this is in a month time, we went from $18 on November 19th to maybe a week to $29. We went from okay, from 20 to almost 30. We went up 50% in 6 days, in a week. 50% in 1 week is about 10% a day. There are 250 trading days in a year. That is about a 2,500% return annualized. Okay. So forget, and I get this all day long. So forget our friend and Nvidia. Okay, of course the company is still the same. It's making the same amount of money. It's just now the story kind of figured that, well, maybe Trump is not going to be focusing on that too much because he's focusing on Dodge, he's focusing on the tariffs on Tesla, and he's forgetting. You see what's happening? Look, he's forgetting about the infrastructure, and we're down to back to $13. That is a great buy right now. Mark my words. Right? Over the past 3 months, since November 6th, they were, you see this? Look, now, were they hoping that Biden was going to win and you wanted to do the infrastructure in the US? Right? And we were at 13, that's 13, $6 all the way up to that's from 6 to 31, that's almost 5 times, 400%. 400% in a month. 400% in a month. 400% in a month, times that's 4,000% in a year. Okay, right there. That's annualized. But it's kind of gone out the wayside. So what is this telling you? I mean, it's telling you that if you think that the story is going to change to infrastructure, this is the kind of profit we're talking about. But how you know what they're going to do? Are they going to do? Are they going to do infrastructure in this country? Because if they do, this company VMC, it's a you know largest market share. They will be involved. They will benefit. The question is Trump going to be focusing on that? Or, but right now the story is that no. And of course, the market is very fickle. It's like a child, right? You cannot think about all the stories all the time. So it's got different stories for different stocks. How do you know what the story is? Well, you got to read the book. You got to read the VMC book. You have to read the Tesla book. You have to read the QQQ book. You have to read the S&P or the Dow book. You got to read all these books for you to understand what the story is. But nobody does. Now, of course, you could say, well, why don't I listen to someone that's going to tell me what's going on? They probably wrote the book. Well, I mean, yeah, you could listen to the pundits, to the analysts, but keep in mind when they're telling you, oh, I like this stock and I want to invest, they're selling you something. Like right now, what am I doing? I want you to join my channel. So I'm kind of selling you something. Although I am not, I'm being more truthful in the sense that I'm showing you what I'm buying. I'm just really I'm going long on the stock or an option to say, well, that's what I'm doing. But these people, when they go on and they tell you, well, I like it's a great stock, you say, well, let me go buy it. Well, hold on. I don't know what their situation. Did they show you their portfolio? Because maybe they've got 5 stocks in there, and if they're off, oops, it's okay. I mean, I didn't. And you go out buy the stock, and then you're wrong. Like right now, you figured, well, stock. These people are saying the Tesla is worth $515, and it's around 470 right now. I could make $70. Usually that happens is people go in and then this thing goes up to 350. I tell you tomorrow, if tomorrow, mark my words, if tomorrow Trump says picks a fight with Elon Musk, that stock goes down to $200. So Tesla, the way you want to trade a name like that is you want to trade it very delicately on a daily basis. You go in, you make $1,000, you get out to see. Hopefully, there's nothing, no bad news happen overnight. But if overnight Trump picks a fight with someone, that person is done. The man does not mess around, fortunately or unfortunately. But right now, I mean, there's no reason for him to pick a fight with Tesla, with Elon Musk. So the company should be doing just fine until the end of the year. So that's one story. Another story is on QQQ, right? QQQ is basically the ETF of NASDAQ. So that name is highly, highly correlated to what's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow, the Fed has to lower rates. Now, I'll tell you right now, if they don't, now, why wouldn't they lower the rates? Well, I don't know, because Trump was going to pick a fight with him. When I mean him, I'm talking about the Fed chairman, right? Um, if he doesn't, then you have a market crash. Definitely. How do you know? Well, I don't know. I mean, at 2 o'clock. So between tomorrow morning, you could make money by buying a put on QQQ and seeing what happens. No, what kind of money are we talking about? What kind of money can you make if you feel that the QQQ is not going to work out? And I mean, I don't think so, but let me show you. Let me show you what we're talking about here, right? So let's go to QQ trades, right? So right now, what's been happening on QQQ, which is basically it's tracking the Nasdaq. You can't buy the Nasdaq, but you could buy the ETF. Over the past month, this thing has gone from $11 all the way down up to $31. Right. So this is November 18th, and this is today. What does this mean? Well, it basically means that the QQQ has been going up, which is basically the Nasdaq, driven by Tesla, Nvidia, and all these tech stocks, and it's been going up. There's some uncertainties here and there, but overall, we've been going up because we're expecting more and more and more rate cuts. Now, if you're not going to get it, then you're going to go from 31 down to 12 in a very, very fast time. Yep, that's the story. So, but if it continues to go up, then look, this is a kind of look. If you look at 3 months ago, it was listed on October 32, and right, it was last year, and I mean this year, October 32, and it dropped pretty fast. But that's because of the trading mechanism. But overall, it's been going up. So you have a trend here that is of interest. That's very interesting that you wanna take advantage of. Now, what did we do with QQQ? Well, I mean, we put on a trade at 17,000, 10 contract, and then we sold. We bought 10 contract. Actually, that was from previous. You don't see the previous one, but basically, bought contracts at December 5th and sold it on December 6th. So we made about $1,000 right there in one day. Why? Well, because benefiting from December 5th to December 6th. Look, December 5th, which was about here, to December 6th. See this? The market went from $20 to $23 because there was some talk that I think at that time it had to do with inflation, and we had some good news. And that's what you want. You want a good numbers. Now, at the end of the day, what's important for you is you need to pick your fight. You need to decide where is it that you want to invest. Now, of course, you could say, well, this is nuts. I mean, I just want to buy this the market and then wait. No, you could do that too. But you want to make 10% a year? You're gonna, this is no money. This is 10% is nothing. You want 2,500%. You want 4,000%. But that's crazy. Nobody could do that. Of course you can if you understand what you're buying. But you need to make up your own mind. You need to decide. No, having said all this, I will tell you the worst part of it is you could say, well, no, I'm not going to get involved in options. You're crazy. I'm not going to make that kind of money. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy and hold. Yeah, great. Okay. So you buy and hold while in the back of the room, what do we have? We have the national debt that no one is talking about. And that, my friend, I don't care what you do, when that thing hits, that's going to hurt. It's going to hurt your 401k, the stock market, while because there's nothing you could do about the national debt. Okay. So you're holding your little portfolio up there, 12%, 12%, 20%. And then in the middle of the year, okay. Why? Because you don't understand what's happening. You don't know the story. Okay. What about inflation? Yeah, great. No inflation. Well, you know what? Let's see. because if Trump wants to pick a fight with whomever, and they want to pick a fight back with him, like Canada, then price is going to go up. Yeah, I mean, once they bring their factory in this country and they build them, that's going to be. But in the meantime, you're holding your portfolio in the middle of a storm. That is nuts. That's not going to work. Then, of course, you have the Trump trade. I mean, until the end of the year, I don't. I mean, he's not going to. He's not president yet. He hasn't. We're just talking here. We're just talking. So that's great because then the story could change back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But once he takes office and he says, I'm going to do this, and this doesn't happen, and I pick a fight with this one and with that one, and then there's disappointment, then you could find yourself in a very, very bad situation. I feel that there is, and this is a reason what I want to tell you, is these are the reason why I think we need to be concerned. There's three reasons that you need to worry about. One is a national debt. When is that going to happen? I don't know. Now, what do you mean by, what do I care about the national debt? No, no, you do care about the national debt. The reason you do care is because it needs to be funded. If it doesn't get, how does it get funded? Well, people go out and they basically buy your debt. Who? Well, a bunch of people, locally, international, foreigners, or whatever. The day these people decide not to buy it, we're in trouble. Oh, that's never going to happen. Really? Do you remember Greece? Forget Greece. France right now is having difficulties. Why? They kept borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, and they figured now their rate is going higher and higher and higher, and they're wondering whether or not people will be willing to keep financing them. And you know what happened in Portugal? I'm not talking South America here. I'm talking about Europe, Portugal. Talk about Greece. What happened to these people? What did they have to do to? You know what they had to do? In Italy right now, you're retiring at 70. That's a story in itself. So you need to understand what the story is. And the story on the national debt is that it's going to be painful if tomorrow morning they decide not to finance us. Now, of course, it's stupid for them not to do it for the simple reason is because we're the safest game in town. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Where are you going to put your money? Don't forget this. I think there's like $10 trillion looking for a home. So that money is going to find its way here. So at the end of the day, I'm not saying that we cannot lose, but I mean, it's going to be tough for us to lose on a national debt basis. So I'm not too worried about it right now. I'm worried about inflation. Why? Well, because if Trump, remember, the second point is that once he starts in January and he takes over, what is he going to do? Because then he has to do stuff. Right now we're just talking, but once he start doing things, and if you don't like what he does, what I mean by that is that oh wow, I just went to Costco and my strawberries from Mexico are costing more money than before. Now, of course, you're going to say, well, that's not going to happen because they're going to make a deal with us. They don't want to get hit with tariffs either. Because, yeah, I know, but suppose they do. Well, suppose you keep pushing that woman and pushing that woman and tugging that woman. I mean, the Mexican president, and she says, "You know what? I gotta show that Mexicans have resolved against Trump. You know what? Forget you." Then prices are going up, and then the Fed is going to say, "Ooh, hold on. You know what? I can't lower rates anymore. I'm sorry. I got to raise rates." And the market obviously keeps asking for lower rates. Now, the reason why you should know two reasons why the Fed wants, why the market wants lower rates is because the lower the rates, the higher the valuation. I mean, don't ask me why. Don't try to understand it. That's how it is. The lower the rate of return, the higher the valuation of the stock. That's how it is. So the market wants that low rate. And that's what you're seeing right now. The story that you're seeing right now in the market for tomorrow morning at 2 o'clock, at 2 p.m., the market is saying, you better give me that low rate, right? Now, of course, you're saying, what do you mean? Who's talking to whom? The, all these people together, trillions and trillions of dollars, moving around, pushing the Fed to lower the rates. And of course, Trump is also kind of pushing him as well, although he says, you know, The Fed is independent. Not so fast. The Fed is independent, but the Fed is not deaf either, right? They could hear what's going on, and they want to make sure he wants to make sure he keeps his job. I mean, the guy that kept the job the longest as a Fed chairman, Alan Greenspan, lasted 20 years. Do you know how he lasted 20 years? Right? Uh, yeah, I mean, it's not like he was a rock star because he went through Republicans and Democrats, and you stay at that job by being very nice to everyone. And most of the time presidents want lower rates because it makes it because the business, it makes it easy for you to finance. It makes it easy for you to get people to invest in your country. It's cheaper, right? It's very easier to buy a house, blah blah blah. I mean, the drill, right? It's a lot easier with lower rates. So they want that lower rate. So right now, I mean, you don't see it. It's not written on the wall somewhere, lower those rates. But the story is that the market wants lower rates. And they're going to get it, right? Because we're pricing that in quote unquote pricing. Whatever, how do you price so many stocks, so many people? This is it's like you go into a room, right? And there are multiple stories being told at the same time. And it's almost impossible. It's like a constant noise. It is a noise, frankly, because don't forget, I'm told you the little story about Tesla. The story with Tesla, which basically that because of Trump trades, he's going to help him with the regulation. So therefore, he's going to get the FSD, the full service driving, and he's going to help with the taxes. I mean the incentives. He's going to help him, and so Tesla's going to be great, and it's going to be $1 trillion. That's one story. QQQ is another story. I just told you about VMC. I don't know all the stories, unfortunately. I'm trying for my channel, and I'm trying for my Patreon channel, and also for my YouTube channel to help you. And don't forget to subscribe, by the way. Trying to help you by telling you the story of each name. But I don't know the story on Apple. I don't know the story on Bank of America. I mean, there's so many stories. But that, if you want to make money in the stock market, what you need to decide is what is the story. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what they do. It doesn't. I showed you VMC, right? You see the VMC stock, it's going anywhere. Let me show you the Tesla stock. We did that already. Let me show you what's going on story on with the Dow, for example. Okay. And this article is pretty interesting because it shows you that even though the Nasdaq is doing great, the Dow drops the ninth straight session. So the Dow is not doing so great. I showed you the squares before, where everything is. Hold on, let me talking about. Let me show you the. Let me show you this. Look at this. These are all the stocks. I mean, yeah, I'm great. I made $1,000 on Tesla, but wow, look at this. This is not green, people. This is red. Why is this red? What this is telling you, believe it or not, this is the market talking to the Fed right now. And what the market is telling the Fed is there will be blood in the streets if you don't lower those rates. Of course, keep in mind that the way it works is like there's I forget how many members at the Fed, and they're discussing, right. And they at 2 o'clock they're going to announce a decision, and then they're going to make an announcement. Now, of course, you say, but who cares about what this guy has to say? Well, unfortunately, he's part of the story. Is he real? He's not real. Don't forget the rate that he's going to change. The rate that he's going to change, right? This Fed fund rate that he's changing, that he's going to play around tomorrow, is not for you. Is not a real rate. It's not the rate of your CD of your no. It's a rate that banks borrows with each other. That is a rate he's going to play around with. So it's not real in a sense. It doesn't have a daily impact in your lives, but basically it sets the tone. And don't forget that that rate that is changing today is not going to have an impact on you tomorrow. On average, it takes, let's say, 8 quarters, 2 years before you see an impact on that rate. This is nuts. This is story time, people. This is story time. So don't think for 1 second that that rate that he's going to announce tomorrow and somehow your city rate's going to go up. And no, 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 no. It takes 10 months before it's impacted. How do I know? The last time around when he lowered rates, remember 2022? It took 2 years before you see the impact of the rate decrease. I mean, the rate increase at that time. In fact, they're wondering, he says, this is strange, quite frankly. Rates went up, and yet we didn't get into a recession. And a lot of pundits, and if go Google it, recession. I mean, you got DiMartino, you got all these people on this guy Payne on Fox, talking about, you know what, recession's coming, guys, because it's supposed to come because we raised the rates 500%. 505%. That's a lot. But yet, the recession never came. So they're like, wow, well, just wait. It's going to be there. In fact, it's so bad. It is so bad that now they're worried about not so much recession, but we're worrying about inflation. Okay. Um, no chance for no cut tomorrow. Of course not. Oh my God. Nowhere, man. I mean, if tomorrow you don't have a cut, you have a market meltdown because the market is going to get pissed. So that's literally what's happening. You have these forces at play, and you have the market talking to the Fed. Now, the thing is, if you listen to CNBC and you listen to all these people, you got to be very careful as an investor because you need to make sure they don't talk to you in terms of stories, right? They tell you in terms of, I mean, what do you think they go to these shows to begin with? They don't get paid to talk to go to CNBC or all these places. They go there simply to talk their own book. In fact, sometimes they'll tell you, by the way, I have this in my portfolio and I think it's going to do great. Well, obviously, you want it to do great because if it does great, then you do great, right? Okay. So I'm always hesitant. In my case, when I said, buy Tesla because it's going to be a $2 trillion company, I mean, I don't have it in my portfolio. I mean, I trade it. I mean, for me, it's the fun of educating my Patreon channel subscribers or my YouTube subscribers for you guys to understand what's happening. No, but the story that what I'm selling is a bit difficult because what I'm selling is a story. I'm selling something that is a bit complicated to comprehend. What I'm saying that well, it's very simple. QQQ is going to do well if you have lower rates. And have you seen the QQQ trade, right? It's been going up because expectation of the low. Okay, so even if you get a trade tomorrow and it does well, and the Fed in fact does cut rates, then it's going to be okay. So what's next now? Next, I'm concerned that they're going to start thinking, you know what? Tariffs. You know what? Maybe this is it. And of course, now we're in December. We're going to get close to January. The story is going to change big time because now Trump is going to be coming out and he's going to start talking and acting. And there we're going to see what happens. Right now, it's fairyland, right? So this is a time where you make money. Then after, you have to be very careful. It doesn't matter what's really happening. What's going to happen if the market feels that, you know what, these trades are not going to work, these tariffs, then therefore I'm out of there. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that you cannot make money. What then you have to do, especially if something happens, suppose Trump has a fight with Tesla, with Elon Musk, doesn't mean you can't make money. You just have to pick another story. There's always another story. Like VMC, I showed you Vulcan material. This thing was going up and up and up and up because, up to when, let me show you. Let me show you VMC so you see that story, which is also an interesting story, right? See this? 3 months ago, September, October, November, November 6th. What's the story there? Well, I mean, literally, we were waiting for Biden to be elected, and Biden is going to redo the infrastructure of the U.S., rebuilding some bridges and blah blah blah, and therefore the option on VMC, which is Vulcan material, would go up because the stock would be going up. Remember, the option went up 277%, while the stock went up 12%. 12% times 10 times 20. So usually it's about 20 times. You could have made 277% in what? From September 17 to November 6th, if you knew the story. And at that time, your story was Biden's going to be reelected. There's no way Trump is going to win. And we are going to spend money on the economy, on the infrastructure. That was a good story while it lasted. Of course, when it got close to here, you had to wonder, is he really going to win? Because if he doesn't, what is the story with Trump? And this has been the story with Trump. There was some hope that he was going to do it, but it is not really happening. That's story time. You want to be on the good side of the story. So what you need to do, and forget the analysis, of financial analysis of the stocks, because I mean some of those stocks don't make any money and they're still doing well. You need to know what the story is, and this is very difficult. Why? Because it depends who's telling it to you, and who's listening. Even on Tesla, Tesla was in the doghouse up until November 6th. So made a huge amount of money on November 6th because I like Tesla, and as November 6th came closer and closer, I said, my God, he's going to win. When you could see that, you could see he was going to win. And Trump is neck, and Elon Musk is with him, and why not? Let me show you. I have to show you my Patreon channel, and I could show you what is achievable with what is achievable if you know what you're doing. All right, so these are some of the trades that I put in. Tesla 6,000. Fuck, I had 6,000%, but that was a couple of days ago. I did unwind something today. Let's go to November 6th. So as you could see, my Patreon channels, you could get to see the detail of all those trades. Okay, November 6th, 1,600%. November 7th, 8,400%. 46,000%. But that was November 8th, after I sold, on the Tesla trade for 5,000, 46,000. These are real numbers. You could check them out. Now, of course, I didn't make 46,000% in one day. It's annualized, right? So if I make, I don't know, 20% in one day, there's 250 days in a year. So 250 times 20, right? That's how I calculate it. But the point is, it's still very good. You're taking a lot of risk. Yeah, but I think I'm getting paid for that risk, right? Annualized. You're taking a risk on a stock and you're making maybe 30% and you're happy. I'm making 5,000% over a weekend. But it's risky. Yeah, but I understand the risk and I'm getting paid for the risk. Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure you get paid for the risk that you're taking. And I hate to tell you that most investors do not understand the risk in the stock market. And you know why? It's simple. They don't tell you. What is a risk? Risk is uncertainty, right? So, how do you know something is risky? Well, because something is volatile. Well, how do you measure that volatility? They don't tell you. Well, they have the beta. So, right now, if I look at the beta of Tesla, it's around 2.5 times. So, it is volatile. Okay. Um, but what about the other stocks? And by the way, how do we measure that beta without getting too technical? The beta really measure the systematic risk, right? It measures the risk that inflation risk. It measures recession risk. It assumes that all the other risks have been removed. It's a measure, but it is not really a very good measure of risk. You want total risk. You want standard deviation. Unfortunately, standard deviation is a measure of total risk using statistical analysis. But statistics will tell you that it is based on normal distribution. What does that mean? It means that if you have a coin, right, and I keep flipping it, and what are the odds of getting a tail or a head? Is 50%. Says who? Well, you got you got only two things, so obviously it is. Well, I tell you what, somebody did 50,000 tails and they never got 50-50. That is in principle you get 50 because the law of the large numbers. But technically speaking, this is only true if you assume that the way you flip the coin, each flip of the coin is independent from the other. Is it truly independent? The way you flip one coin and another and another and another? So, yes, it's Alan Greenspan. Alan Greenspan was in charge of the economy for 20 years. And the reason he was in charge is because he was a Fed chair. And the reason he stood there is because he was making everyone happy. In fact, probably caused the financial crisis. And that's why you have to be very careful. And that's why you want a Fed that is independent, because if he's not independent, that's a problem. So if tomorrow the Fed decides that, you know what, enough of the inflation, we need to raise rates, he could literally destroy the first year for Trump. Now, and I'm telling you, if he does this, now of course, keep in mind, he, like I said before, there's a bunch of people at the Fed, right? So they all kind of decide, they vote, and then he decides at the end. Last time around, there was a woman that basically said, you know, I think we shouldn't keep lowering the rates because I think that we have some inflation problems. At the same time, the market wants lower rates. The market doesn't care. They want lower rates. Give me lower rates. How much money was made after 2008 when we brought rates to zero? Remember Capture Wall Street? Wall Street takeover? After the financial crisis, rates went down at 0%. Of course, the market is going to do fantastic. Where are you going to put your money? You have to put money in stocks. You're not going to put a CD at 0%. So it's a name of the game, right? It's not real. It's just that's how it is. But you need to understand those very fundamental, and it's not complicated. The market is not complicated. You need to understand where to look. If I tell you I'm going to read your story about Moby Dick, right? Don't tell me, well, what's going on with the whale? Who cares about the whale? About the white whale? That's not what it's about. It's about the quest for something that's going to destroy you, right? It's for the quest, the unachievable quest. That's a reason why the book works. That's a reason why Frankenstein works so well. That's the reason why all of these very famous books, because they reach out and they talk about the story. You need to find out what it is. Now, how do you find out what it is, what the story is? You got to read every day. I'm out there every day looking at Tesla, looking at all the news on Tesla and seeing what's going on and how is a story being told. I mean, the reason why a story is not very real is because Tesla hasn't done anything. I mean, hasn't released any earnings, right? I mean, it released in November, but the point is that since then, nothing really has. It's just expectation of what we think they're going to do. This is crazy, right? It's not like you're making widgets and you're getting paid for making widgets. You make 20 widgets, I'm going to pay you for the 20 widgets. Here, I'm going to pay you, meaning I'm going to buy or sell the stock based on the expectation of what we think is happening. As long as you're on the right side of the trade, it's great. And what it is, the market has its own way of talking to you, and you need to understand it. Like today, when I did this trade this morning, now of course, the more money you have, right, it's easier to make $1,000. So basically, if you have I don't know, $30,000, you know, a 5% move is not a big move in the option market. 5 times 3 is $1,500. All you need is, and then if you want to make $100 a day, it's the same thing. Now, keeping in mind that the story is one thing, the other thing that you need to be aware of is the way the stock itself trade, which is the price risk. Now, there's a bunch of people out there, and the reason I'm focusing on the story is because I don't have the ability, quantitatively speaking, to analyze the stock itself, the way it moves. And there, my friends, is extremely powerful. That's another way of making powerful money because the movement of a stock is like akin to the movement of the weather. It's going to be cold in winter, right? But what I want to know is what's going to be the temperature tomorrow morning? There's a way to do it in stocks, the same way you have to do in real life. So you have to, but there you need to use technical. And this, I don't think most people, I mean, hedge funds do it all the time. They hire a bunch of PhDs, everything else, but we're not going to do that. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you. Let's analyze this, the trend, the price risk, how it's moving, and based on what's been doing the wave, then we know what's going to happen next. That is that's a very very difficult way of doing it. It's gonna be it's a very lucrative. I mean, that's how hedge funds make money, but you have to know what you're doing and you have to comprehend. And most people on YouTube or whatever, they have the attention of a fly, right? And so, in fact, it's most entertainment. I'm sure you guys are watching me right now. It's like entertainment, right? What is he really talking about? My goal, really, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, is to teach you as to what I think makes a difference. Now, how do I know it's working? Well, because I've been doing it now since August, right? Portfolio has tripled in size. We're stopping. I stopped this channel once I reach 500,000. Then we're gone. We're done. You should come with me on this journey. I think we should be doing quite fine. Now, we should be fine until the end of the year, I think, because we're just talking, and the Fed is going to do what they're supposed to be doing. Now, beginning of next year, I have to tell you, if you have a portfolio, be careful. Be careful because of national debt. Be careful of inflation, and be careful because of Trump. All these three items are going to be interacting in ways. And again, I don't care what earnings happen at Apple and Tesla. It doesn't really matter. I mean, obviously, if you have to make money, because if you don't make any money, then forget it. But even if you make money, they may look at the same thing and they may say, we still don't like it. You know what, the Trump trade, and he's going to start a war here. You're gonna have to be very careful. So in this kind of situation, I like to trade on a day-to-day basis. Make my money, get out, watch what's happening. Make my money, get out, but make my money, wait and wait and wait for it to turn. I did that when I started trading in August, and it's a bad idea. Make $300 a day, make $100 a day, make $400 a day. Don't try to make $50,000, because the longer you wait, if the trade turns against you, you see what happened. This VMC trade that I showed you went all the way up there since November 6th. It's been going down. November, December. It's been a month and a half now. If you put that trade all the way up there, you're waiting for Trump to say, I want to rebuild America. Suppose he doesn't. Suppose he focus on other things. Then that VMC trade is going to go down and down. Now, of course, you could say, well, maybe now's the time to buy VMC. Well, I don't know. The story hasn't changed that much. I don't hear anything about infrastructure right now. So there's still more to go. Remember, tomorrow, 2 o'clock. Let's see what happens.